Before the 2016 Olympics, both Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps had already carved their names into marble. Their legacies were maybe secure, but this Games presented one final test. Bolt chasing an unprecedented third straight sweep of the sprints, and Phelps returning from retirement to reassert his dominance in the water. This wasn't just about winning more gold medals. This was about proving that time, doubt, and competition couldn't touch them. This is a story of when we bid farewell to two of the greatest athletes in history, Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps, at the 2016 Olympics. When Usain Bolt stands on a track, you notice him. Even if you disregard his now legendary status, Bolt stands at a massive 6 foot 5 inches tall, with long legs propping up his frame, towering over the other sprinters. Bolt first started getting noticed when he was 15. The 2002 World Junior Championships were being held in Jamaica, his home country. Bolt's first love was other sports like cricket, but when he hit his teenage years, he realized that simply, he was really fast. So he switched his focus to the sprint races. Just a couple of years later, and he was lining up to sprint in front of a raucous home crowd at just 15 years old. He was extremely, visibly nervous. So much so that he reportedly put his shoes on the wrong feet. And still, he ran a 20.61 in the 200 meters to become the world junior champion. That race was a revelation, not just to the world, but to Bolt himself. He vowed then to never let his nerves beat him again. And so a mask went on, a mask of cool detachment, of joy and mischief. This swagger wasn't a brand yet. It was a survival tactic. The young sprinter was given a bit of a reality check after injuries derailed his efforts at both the 2004 World Championships and the 2004 Olympics. Shortly after the disappointing results in Athens, Bolt approached sprinting coach Glenn Mills and asked to train with him. Together they went to work, on strength, on form, on the 100 meters, which Bolt had largely avoided until then. His frame wasn't supposed to be built for the short sprint. He was too tall and so was too slow off the blocks. But with his coach, Bolt reshaped his stride and harnessed his length. The times began to drop, and the world began to watch. Bolt lowered his time in the 100 meters, pushing it all the way to a blazing 9.76 seconds, just a few milliseconds away from the world record. The runner himself was surprised at this sudden improvement, but his coach was not. He knew Bolt still had more to go, and all the while he was still dominant in the 200 meters. Enter the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and Bolt was the favorite to take gold in both races. It had been a sudden rise to the top of the sport for the Jamaican. Bolt was clearly wildly gifted, and now he was focused. Sprinting is the simplest of all sports. Just run to the finish line faster than everybody else. And as we saw in clear display in the Beijing 2008 Olympics, Usain Bolt was just faster. A 9.69 and new world record. He barely looked like he was trying. He had a poor start. His shoelace was untied, and he even slowed down at the end to look around and beat his chest in celebration a few strides in front of everybody else. It was so effortless, so casual, that it was easy to forget what we were witnessing. The fastest that any human being had ever run. Then he set his sights on the next race of his slate, the 200 meters. In both of the qualifying races, Bolt basically jogged through the finish line well ahead of the pack. In the Olympic finals, even with a headwind, Bolt ran a world record-setting 19.3 seconds, becoming the first man to hold world records in both sprint events simultaneously since they introduced electronic timing. To wrap up his Olympics in the 4x100, Bolt and the Jamaican team ran a dominant relay, getting around the length of the track in 37.1 seconds, beating the silver medal team by almost a full second and beating the previous world record by 0.3 seconds. So, 3 events, 3 gold medals, and 3 new records. This Olympics didn't just announce a new king of sprinting, it made it look like the kingdom had always belonged to him. A year later, at the 2009 World Championships in Berlin, Bolt absolutely shattered the 100-meter world record again, running a 9.58. Taking a full tenth of a second off the 100-meter record was basically unheard of. It's such a short distance that making any improvements are near impossible, but Bolt defied our human understanding, and he followed that record up by also taking a tenth of a second off the 200-meter record, running a 19.19. After these performances, the mayor of Berlin presented the Jamaican with a 3-ton section of the Berlin Wall as a gift, because Bolt had shown that one can tear down walls that had been considered insurmountable. Both of Bolt's world records set in 2009 still stand today. If it wasn't clear before, it was clear now. Usain Bolt officially owned sprinting. But he was only 23 years old. He had an entire career in front of him. 4 years later, at the 2012 London Olympics, Bolt returned to all three of the events from Beijing as more than an athlete. He was a global icon, a walking logo. But the sprinting world wasn't sitting around to wait for him. It never does. American Justin Gatlin was back, and Johan Blake, Bolt's countryman, had emerged as a serious threat. The margins were tightening. But in London, Bolt reminded everybody that catching up is not the same as overtaking. In the 100-meter, he beat his 2008 time, mostly gaining time on his previous Olympic record by not celebrating early, earning him a new Olympic record at 9.64, and of course, the defense of his 100-meter gold medal. In the 200 meters, he was similarly successful, running a 19.32, defending his gold medal, and becoming the first sprinter to win both events in consecutive Olympics. And then, in the 4x100 relay, Team Jamaica were dominant for the second games in a row, lowering the world record time they set in 2008 to 36.84, the first ever relay run in sub 37 seconds, with Bolt anchoring the final stretch like he was chasing a memory instead of a medal. 3 golds, again, and 6 in total for the Jamaican sprinter who was already being called the greatest in history. Over the next 4 years, we didn't see as much of Bolt as we were used to. A hamstring injury sidelined him from some of the major track competitions, and in his absence, American Justin Gatlin had taken his mantle as the top sprinter. Bolt did get one over his new rival at the 2015 World Championships, outracing him by 1/100th of a second to take gold in the 100-meter finals before returning to the sidelines to prep and get healthy. The goal for the Rio Olympics was clear: win all 3 sprint events for the 3rd Olympics in a row. When Bolt walked into the Rio Olympic Stadium ahead of the 100-meter finals, the international sporting hero was given a loud reception. Ever relaxed, Bolt calmly walked around the track. When the camera panned to him during the athlete intros, he was dancing. He was smiling. The sprinters got into their starting blocks. For the past 8 years, Usain Bolt has dominated sprinting. He has set nearly untouchable world records in the 100-meter and the 200-meter, outracing incredible sprinters like Johan Blake, Asafa Powell, Tyson Gay, and the man who is his biggest competition today, Justin Gatlin. We would talk about those men, if Bolt never existed, as all-time greats. Instead, they were overshadowed, both figuratively and literally, by the 6'5" Usain Bolt, who has been the world's fastest man since the Beijing 2008 Olympics, when he won the 100 meters for the first time. But no one has ever won that event 3 times, much less 3 in a row. The sprinters crouch, awaiting the starting gun. This will be over in less than 10 seconds. Can Bolt make history? His win is punctuated with an incredible call as the announcer declares he's immortal now. Bolt again didn't get a great start, and for most of the race it seemed as if he was trailing Gatlin, but he gained ground with each of his strides, and as he crossed the finish line, he was again celebrating. His race time in 2016 didn't challenge his world record, but he didn't need to. Simply getting a 3rd gold medal in a row in the 100 meters put Usain Bolt into a league completely of his own. Bolt strode around the Olympic Stadium, taking it in. There has never been a greater sprinter or faster man. Just a few days later, he was back on the track, waving and smiling to fans as he walked in for the 200-meter finals. Bolt, mostly due to nagging injuries, hadn't raced the 200 many times in the past couple of years, while more and more sprinters in the field were consistently posting times under the 20-second mark. His heat performances were strong, but certainly not lights-out dominant, with a memorable moment as Canadian rival Degrassi put together a late burst to nearly outrace Bolt in the semifinals. Additionally, the track was still wet from an earlier rainstorm, and altogether, as they lined up for the 200-meter finals, there were some doubts, and those doubts were unfounded. Bolt started strong, kept his pace, and finished strong, with no one getting even close. He was visibly frustrated because he wanted the world record. But either way, he had already accomplished the already unthinkable triple-double, winning golds in 3 Olympics in a row in both the 100 and 200 meters. One more to go. Team Jamaica walked out of the tunnel full of confidence, and how could they not be? They had the fastest man alive, as well as two of the only men who could reasonably call themselves competitors to him in Powell and the second fastest man alive, Blake. It might seem like a foregone conclusion at this point, but don't let that devalue the competition here. Team Japan, Team Canada, and Team USA were putting together great races. Going into the final leg, it looked kind of tight. As he grabbed the baton, Bolt was in range with the Japanese and American runners. He switched the baton to his other hand, something you're generally not advised to do as it wastes precious time and messes with your form slightly. And then he took off. It's like someone switched him into a different gear. As he crossed the finish line, he had done it. The triple-triple. 3 golds, 3 Olympics in a row in the 3 sprint events. Team Jamaica took their victory lap around the stadium, laughing and dancing as they did, having conquered the Olympic Games yet again. But history has its caveats. The IOC stripped Jamaica of that 4x100 relay gold, meaning Bolt's medal total was downgraded from a perfect 9 for 9 to technically 8 for 9. And yet, does it matter? Not really. The sprinting events are over in the blink of an eye, but during that blink, perhaps the most aptly named athlete in sports history, Usain Bolt, redefined what we thought was possible in track and field. We don't remember him for the numbers. We remember how he made us feel. We remember the way that he ran. Undeniably the fastest man in history and one of the greatest Olympians ever. It's just that one of the only men who could potentially rival him in Olympic greatness was also here in Rio, and he was also making history. We first caught a glimpse of the American at the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, Australia. Phelps qualified for the team at 15 years old and was able to finish an astonishing 5th in the 200-meter butterfly finals, the stroke that would become his signature. In the 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens, Michael Phelps won the first gold medal of his career in the 400-meter individual medley, a race where you swim each 100-meter segment in a different swimming stroke. Through the rest of the Athens Games, Phelps tore through the water like a man possessed, untethered by pressure or precedent. And quickly, we had to get used to seeing this swimmer stand on the medal podiums. Phelps' games concluded with 7 total medals, making him the most successful athlete of the 2004 Olympics. Phelps was clearly special, and importantly, he was driven. In the 1972 Olympics in Munich, American swimmer Mark Spitz was dominant, winning 7 gold medals in the same games. This was a number that was deemed the outer boundary of what was possible. Then, Michael Phelps came along and decided he wanted to go bigger. At Beijing 2008, he made it clear. The goal was 8 medals, and all of them gold. And Phelps was competing in only 8 events, so he'd have to win every single one of those 8. The games began. His first event was the same as where he won the first gold medal of his career, the 400-meter medley. A new world record and gold medal. Next up was the 4x100 freestyle relay. A new world record and a gold medal. Won in the most exciting comeback in Olympics history. But that full story is for another day. Event 3, the 200-meter freestyle. A new world record and a gold medal, finishing 2 full seconds ahead of the silver medalist. Event 4, the 200-meter butterfly. A new world record and a gold medal, despite his goggles filling up with water and going effectively blind for the last half of the race. Event 5, the 4x200 freestyle relay. A new world record and a gold medal, the first team to ever break the 7-minute mark in the event. 5 events in, and Phelps' hopes are somehow still alive. Event 6, the 200-meter medley, a new world record and a gold medal. Event 7, the 100-meter butterfly. Phelps' main competitor, Serbian swimmer Milorad Kavic, made headlines before the race, saying he'd like to go down in the history books as the guy who stopped Phelps' quest for 8 golds. In a photo finish to end all photo finishes, Phelps beat out Kavic by 0.01 seconds. One more to go. Event 8. The 4x100 medley relay. When he started, the team was in 3rd, trailing Australia and Japan. After Phelps finished, Team USA was more than a half second ahead of everyone else. After Jason Lezak's final leg, it was a new world record and Michael Phelps' 8th gold medal. Olympic history. Mark Spitz, the man that Phelps surpassed, said afterwards that this guy is the greatest swimmer of all time and the greatest Olympian of all time. He's maybe the greatest athlete of all time. He's the greatest racer who's ever walked the planet. Phelps had publicly set the biggest goal in Olympics history and achieved it. He could easily be done swimming and no one would blame him. But as we know, Phelps kept competing. In the 2012 Olympics in London, Phelps actually started slow, finishing off the podium in the 400-meter medley, the first non-medal event for him since he was 15 years old in Sydney. His next two events, he took only silver. The world blinked. Maybe Phelps had been overtaken? The next four events of London, he won 4 golds in a row, seemingly through sheer willpower. He became the first man to win the same individual swimming event, the 200 medley, 3 different times. Then he did that again, making it 3 golds in a row in the 100-meter butterfly. Altogether, at London, Michael Phelps won 4 golds and 2 silvers to increase his total medal tally to 22. And in doing so, he became the most decorated Olympian of all time. Then Michael Phelps announced his retirement from the sport of swimming. It wasn't too surprising. He conquered the entire sport, and there was nothing left to do. No more goals. But this is a video about the 2016 Olympic Games. Phelps wasn't really done. In April of 2014, after almost 2 years of retirement, Michael Phelps told the world he was back in the pool. He made it clear he wasn't training for history, he wasn't training for medals, he wasn't even training for all the fans. This time, Phelps wanted to swim for himself and enjoy the journey. Michael Phelps was going into the 2016 Games with nothing to prove. He was 31 years old, far past the typical prime of male swimmers. He was given the honor of carrying in the flag for Team USA in the opening ceremony, and once at the Games, he was noted for being much more relaxed and friendly in the Olympic Village, socializing with other athletes and bringing his family along for company. But when he stepped onto the blocks, the fire returned. In the 4x100 freestyle relay, he led the American team to a gold medal, with his performance in his leg being described as extraterrestrial. In the 4x200 free relay, the American team and Phelps won again. In the 200-meter medley, Michael Phelps won another gold medal, his 4th consecutive in that event. And now we come to the 200-meter butterfly. This was that same event that marked the beginning of his career with a 5th place when he was just 15 years old in Sydney. This is Phelps' signature stroke, and since that 2000 Olympics, he's been the dominant butterfly swimmer in the world, winning gold in 5 of 6 butterfly events in the Olympics. But he didn't win 6 of 6. See, in London in 2012, remember that Phelps took 2 silvers. One of those 2 silvers was in the 200-meter butterfly. He was beaten to the top spot by South African swimmer Chad Leclos by a mere 500ths of a second. This was a shocking result, and avenging his loss in the butterfly was one of the major reasons why Phelps decided to return from retirement. So, at the 200-meter butterfly in Rio 2016, Chad Leclos and Michael Phelps are the 2 favorites to win the finals. In their qualifying semifinal, the 2 men were captured getting ready for the race. Leclos is feeling the energy, shadowboxing and hyping himself up. In the corner of the room sits Michael Phelps, giving his South African rival what can only be described as a death stare. Phelps went on to beat Leclos in that qualifying race, and then again in the finals. While the South African swimmer took 4th place, Phelps topped the podium, making him the oldest swimmer to win an individual Olympic event. Additionally, with this win, Phelps became the first Olympian in history to win 13 individual Olympic titles, and I really am talking about all of history, as the previous record was 12 titles, held by Leonidas of Rhodes, who won the 3 Olympic foot races in 4 straight Olympics between 164 and 152 BC. In his final individual event of the Games, Phelps was upset in the 100-meter butterfly by Singaporean Joseph Schooling, with Michael taking the silver medal. This was Singapore's first ever Olympic gold, and while Michael's final individual event did not end in gold, he had one more race to go, with the 4x100 medley relay. For all of Michael Phelps's individual eminent greatness, many of his most memorable moments of his career have come in relays. The greatest swimmer of all time was often left to rely on his teammates. There's something nice about that. At Rio, Phelps swam the butterfly leg of the medley. When he entered the pool, the US was behind. When he exited, they were ahead. As Nathan Adrian touched the wall to close the final leg of the race, it clinched the gold medal for Team USA. the 28th medal of Phelps's Olympic career, and the 23rd gold. As Phelps stood atop the podium alongside his compatriots, he did so as by far the most decorated Olympian that the Games have ever seen, able to celebrate with finality. At Rio in 2016, both Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps secured their spots as the greatest athletes in their respective sports. They embraced pressure and let it push them further towards greatness. They challenged the limits of human performance and blew past them on the track and in the pool. So as the 2016 Olympics closed, we bid farewell to the fastest man and the greatest swimmer of all time. But this was just one page in the book of sports stories that happened in 2016. If you got to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope that you enjoyed it. On this channel, I am covering the insane year of sports that was 2016, and so I recommend that you tune in for more. I'll see you in the next one.